today's video, as I told you in the last video, it's a life update video in the part of finances. So I felt like I needed to update you on this because I recently did a video on how I plan and budget my money, and that was for another kind of job, right? But with this new job, and because now there are some other factors that have been included, like I would have to pay rent considering I moved into my own place, and with some other things that I need to buy, because you know the initial stages of moving into a new place, you spend more money, so you can't really have quite a clear budget because a lot of money is spent, you know, buying the bed, buying the mattress, buying things for the house, and it's hard to really budget the money for that. But once the first month is done and you've bought the basic items, I think if you have a budget, you're good to go. You're good to continue going on with the budget you had. So for me, the budget I had was I was going to be spending 50% of my income on my expenses, and the other 50% was divided into various, you know, categories of savings and investing, and you know, personal investing too, and yeah, some other things. So with that, I think I will need an update on the budget, my own budget, because now since I have to pay expenses, you know, rent, water, electricity, food for the house, and I didn't have those kinds of expenses before. Yeah, because I was living, when I had the other job, I was still living at my parents' house, but now since I'm living alone, some few changes will have to, you know, be made. Yeah, so yes, but for that I still plan on using 50% of my income for the expenses. But well, the second month will tell, because the first month is settling in, buying items, and it's going to be hard to really budget for that. So for the second month, once everything is bought, all the necessary items are bought, everything else can be budgeted for. If it's something like maybe a water heater or a cooker or what, so those are the things will have to be planned for. They're not necessities for now. So I will plan for my necessities and my expenses, and I will have to sit down and budget that. I will have to have a budget for the kind of for how much money I'll be using for my food. I'll have to budget for how much money I'll be spending on the house expenses. I'll have to budget for how much money I'll be using on transport to go to my place of work. I'll have to budget on a lot of things. Yeah, so you see, if you have a budget, it doesn't mean that you'll have to stick to it throughout your life. So you'll have to adjust it along the way, depending on maybe the kind of place you've moved into, or depending on the kind of job you've gotten. So depending on whatever it is, because I got a few questions about the budget I had, and other people had some other different priorities. So depending on the kind of priorities you have, because some people have chamas, right? Some people have, you know, other priorities. Maybe you want to save for a house, you want to save for something else. So depending on the priorities you have, you can set aside money for that kind of priority. Okay, so if your priority is saving up maybe to pay up a mortgage, okay, so you can have maybe a certain percentage of your income for your expenses, then a certain percentage to pay up the mortgage, then another certain percentage maybe for savings. Or you can decide that you really want to get rid of your debt first of all before you start, you know, really actively saving to invest. Yeah, so you can have a savings for an emergency fund, because that is really important, because in as much as you're paying your debt, something might happen and you might lose your job, and you will need a safety net. So never stop saving for your emergency fund. You might stop saving for investing just to make sure you pay up your debt first, so that you'll now have money to invest, because there's no point of investing yet you have some huge debt accumulating and interest. So depending on your priorities, depending on what you have going on in your life, your budget will have to cater for all that is going on in your life. So it doesn't have to be like a standard budget, but what has to be standard is you have to have an emergency fund. And you have to have the living expenses. And if possible, try to live below your means. Try to live on either 50% or if at most 60% of your income, so that you have much more to save, much more for investing, and much more maybe for all these other priorities that you have. Because if your living expenses are taking like 80% or 90% of your income, you'll find that you have no money for emergencies, you have no money for other things that you might need to do, and you might end up borrowing money in order to cater for that, and you'll start a cycle of debt. So be proactive when you're trying to save, be proactive when you're creating your budget, and set your priorities right. Sawa. Don't start investing if you have debt to pay. Don't start thinking of other things if you have something else to pay up that is accumulating an interest. So make sure you pay that up first before you start thinking of how to develop yourself in matters of finances. So what I'm doing currently is, because I'm not able to track how much money I'll be able to spend in a month because of the other sort of things that I have to buy for the house, what I'm doing, I am tracking the recurring expenses. That is food money, transport money, and rent money. Yeah, so I'm really tracking that to know how much money that I'll need approximately for my living expenses in a month. So for those recurring expenses right now, I am tracking them so that by the end of this month, I will be able to approximate how much I will be needing per month, and I'll be able to at least set a budget for myself that will be workable for the period that I'll be here. Okay, so yeah, that is the advice I will give. If you get a new job and you have to move into a new place, you first have to track your finances for the first month. Track your finances for the recurring expenses, the ones that you know will be there every month. So track them so that you can approximate. By the end of the first month, you'll be able to approximate how much you'll be needing per month. And the following month, you can be able to use that approximation that you used, that you got for the first month, and you see if it applies on the second month, and you will know if you'll need to add more money, or you'll have some excess that will remain after the approximation or after the month is done. Okay, so yeah, that is what I plan on doing. And yes, I will do another update later on, maybe by the end of my 5-month engagement, and I will let you know about how my financial journey has been throughout the engagement, and how the work has been throughout this, how the work has been generally, and where I will have been in terms of my work. Yeah, so yes guys, that's it about my life updates in terms of my finances. I hope it has been helpful. I hope you've gotten a thing or two about how to be managing your finances once you get your own place as a first timer, because yeah, it's my first time. I have never lived alone. In campus I was living in hostel, so yeah, with this I really have to know how to manage my finances. I don't want to find myself not being able to pay up my rent, or not being able to buy food because I mismanaged my money. So yes, be intentional guys. What I like talking about is be intentional with your money, be intentional with your goals, be intentional with everything that you do. If you want to build a successful lifestyle, be intentional with everything that you're doing. Okay, yes, so that's it for today. If you liked the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up, share with your friends, leave a comment. If you have any questions, you can leave a question. I always respond to the comments down below. And yes, keep staying tuned.